Hi everybody, my name is Paul Rizik. I'm the Farm to School Coordinator for POSD, and welcome to the garden. This is a garden in my backyard. As you can see, it's seen better days. I moved here in fall, so I totally missed the growing season for last year, so it's just been kind of sitting here. Um, that tree right there fell over, so I had to clear a bunch of dead wood to even get this garden space back in order, but it should be good now, and I want to use this as a bit of a microcosm, since we can't go into the school gardens anymore, to give you guys some lessons and some ideas for how to pass the time during quarantine. Because there's nothing better and very few things that are more useful than growing your own food. I'm sure you know, a lot of supermarkets are at capacity right now and are having a lot of trouble filling demand. And plus, the stuff that you grow will taste much better than anything in the supermarket. So I grabbed some seed packs here. I feel obligated to shout out Seed Savers Exchange. They're a website that donated a bunch of seeds to the school district. And I'm going to go through and select some, and we'll plant them here in these planters, and I'll explain more as we go. So I picked 5 different varieties that I'm just going to talk about really briefly. I think these will be good starter plants, and depending how this goes, we might start new ones. I should mention, by the way, that even though we're in my garden for now, the reason I have these pots here is that we're not going to be planting in the ground for now. And that's also important because these aren't going to stay in my garden. My hope is that once this whole quarantine thing kind of winds down, I can transfer these into some of the garden sites at PUSD, and so we'll have a bit of a head start once planting season really starts. So anyway, let's go down the line of these varieties that I've picked. So the first one I picked is good old-fashioned cabbage. You can't go wrong with cabbage. The nice thing about a lot of seed packets, as you can see, is there are directions about how and where to plant them and what they need. So as you can see, this needs full sunlight. It says to start indoors. We have these little planters. We might not start indoors just because I don't think I have very much room in my house right now. Pretty much every windowsill that would give it a lot of sunlight is currently being occupied by my own plants. So I think we're going to keep them outside for now. And if it gets too cold, I'll bring them in, but we'll see. Anyway, the second one is a variety of tomatoes. I should mention all of these are what's called as heritage, what are known as heritage varieties. So these aren't usually the ones that you'll find in the supermarket. They're more rare, they're more specialty, and I think they're more fun to grow because you get to try something you probably wouldn't have otherwise. So anyway, these black seed tomatoes, as you can see, they don't say to grow in these little things, so we'll put them probably in one of these pots over here. Yeah, similar directions. White cherry tomatoes, I got to imagine pretty much the same as the other tomatoes. Then we have scarlet kale. Kale is really fun, similar to the cabbage. And again, it grows in these little planters to start with, and then we can transfer it into a bigger pot as they get bigger. And I want to grow this one. It's celeriac monster polgy. I have no idea what this is, but it has a different color as the other ones, as you can see, and it looks kind of cool. So I don't know. I'm going to give it a shot. And yeah, these look similar to the kale and the cabbage. So yeah, these are the 5 that I'm going to start with. I have more, and depending on how these 5 goes, we might expand it, and we'll talk more about each individual plant as we go. So there are a fair amount of seeds in these packets. So what I'm going to plan to do is use 2 of these planters for each one of these packets. So one's going to be for cabbage, one's going to be for the celeriac, and one's going to be for the kale. So the first thing, and probably the most important thing, is the soil. So I got this soil from Home Depot. I'm sure you're probably wondering, if you know nothing about gardening, why can't we just use any of this soil here? It's perfectly good dirt. Well, in a way it is. And I think certainly if you tried to grow stuff in it, it would work. But Prescott doesn't have a great climate. The dirt here is kind of, it's drier and it has less nutrients than dirt that you might find in California or like in the American South. So we're just going to try to stick with the planter dirt from Home Depot because it's going to be a lot more reliable. Again, if you really tried your hardest, I'm sure you could squeeze some life out of the dirt that you can just find in the ground, but I think the dirt here will be a little bit better, and we're going to make this as easy for ourselves as possible. So I'm going to fill up all of these, and then we can get to planting. All right, so I've just opened the bag of soil. I just want you to compare that how dark and moist and loamy it is compared to this soil. Now, generally, this is a little shovel thing. It's called a trowel, by the way. I'm going to use it to scoop this into that. But generally, if you go below the soil a little bit, you can see the soil and the earth is also kind of darker and a little bit healthier. But again, Prescott's climate just kind of makes it a little tough. Well, it's tougher than most places to grow stuff. But anyway, I'll scoop this into here and be right back. So you'll notice I'm putting my hands in here to really pack down the dirt. You want some air pockets, but not too much. And you don't want it too compressed either. So it's kind of hard to describe, but you want a nice happy medium between the dirt being too kind of airy and loose and being too packed down. Because if it's too airy, then the seeds won't be able to get much traction. But if it's too packed down, it'll be too hard for the seeds to break through. All right, this looks pretty good. So I'll get you guys a closer look here so you can see what these look like when they're ready. You can see nice and even, packed down, but not too packed down. And then again, the soil is so much darker and richer than the soil that you can find in the ground. Actually, this one probably needs a little bit more. So let's start looking. The nice thing about seed packets is a lot of them give pretty detailed instructions about what exactly they need. So you can see we have to sow indoors a 1/14 or a 1/4 of an inch deep. So I don't have a ruler with me, but you can generally eyeball it. And again, even though this says to sow it indoors, I'm gonna try to sow it outdoors. As you can see, they also have on seed packets, if you find a seed packet at home and you don't know how old it is, it generally says on the packet. You can see these were packed for 2019, which is why they donated it to us, because they're technically out of date, but they should be fine for like a couple years at least. And yeah, so let's start planting, and I'll plant all these kale in these two planters here, and then we'll look at the other two and see what they need. So you can see the seeds are very small, so that's easy to fall out of your hand and then you won't know where they are. I'm going to try to plant maybe about 3 or 4 in each little section of these planters, and hopefully that'll be enough. Exactly. If you get lazy like me, you can just start pouring them in and just, again, eyeball it to see how many actually land in there. Okay, so that's all the kale planted. We still have some left over, but that's fine. We can always plant those in a different place later. So I'm going to set these aside and we can move on to the next one, which is the cabbage. So cabbage, it's kind of similar. Again, we plant them in these little planters first, like we talked about. Again, it's 1/4 of an inch deep. You can see these 2 little lines, that means inch. If it was 1 line, that would mean feet. I don't think you would plant many things 1/4 of a foot down. And then again, it says make sure cabbage has a regular supply of water. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. But for now, let's plant these, and yeah, same deal as last time. It's really important also that you know what's planted and what. So again, I'm going to keep these all separated so I don't forget. And that's very important because different plants obviously need different things. Fortunately, kale and cabbage are pretty similar, so even if we do mix them up, which again, I'm going to make sure we don't, it wouldn't be the end of the world. And they're different colors, so once they start to grow, we would know then which is which. I guess I should talk about while I'm doing this. Like I said, we're not going to plant these indoors, even though we probably should. It might be better for them, just because I don't have the room in my house. But if you want to do this at home, I would definitely recommend that you grow them indoors. And what you need to do that is, again, one of these planters, which you can get at pretty much any garden store or at Walmart or Home Depot. And ideally, you could have either a sunny windowsill or what's called a grow light. A grow light is like the best of the best if you have one, or you can get one. Unfortunately, we held a workshop a couple months ago, so every school in PUSD should have at least one that they can work with if they ever want to do some indoor gardening. But basically, a grow light it has a special kind of light bulb that simulates the sun, and so the plants can grow indoors like they would outdoors. And the reason that's important is because outdoors, things are kind of unpredictable, you know? It could rain, it could snow, it could be sunny, it could be cloudy. Whereas if you're indoors, it's going to be pretty much the same temperature all day, every day. And if you have the grow light or if you have a sunny windowsill, the plants will get the sun and the UV radiation that they need to help grow. So again, if you have a grow light or if you have a windowsill that gets a lot of sunlight, that would be ideal to start plants off when they're small and kind of fragile. And then once they get to be big enough that they can support themselves easier, you can transfer them outside, and then they can grow in your garden or in soil, and it'll be like they were there the whole time. But I think it'll be okay out here, and I'm gonna make sure I keep a close eye on the weather, because if it's too cold, they might freeze over and die. So you always want to make sure that it's warm enough to grow outdoors. Otherwise, we would just grow year-round. You can do that in places like California, where there isn't a lot of variation in the temperature. But here in Prescott, unfortunately, we do have winter, so it makes it a little bit tougher. So this one should be the last of the cabbage, so we can set this aside as well. Again, making sure that they're separate from the kale so we don't mix them up down the line. And the last one, and this is really the wild card, is the celeriac. I'm going to look this up after this is over to make sure I'm pronouncing it right, so that next time I can look halfway educated. And as you can see, these ones are different somewhat from the kale and the cabbage. So they want us to plant it 1/8 of an inch deep. So that's a little bit shallower than the cabbage or the kale, because that was 1/4. I don't know if you guys know fractions yet, but you'll learn in time. So yeah, other than the depth in which we plant it, it's pretty much the same process for the other ones. So I'll do that. Also, this should note, you can see for the kale and for the cabbage, they want it to have full sunlight. But for this one, it says full sun or partial shade. So we'll just do full sun. But it's important because different plants need different amounts of sunlight. And so when you're planting out your garden, that's important to keep in mind. Because if you give it too much sun, they can scorch and die, or if it gives too little sun, they won't get the vitamin D they need and they'll also die. So plants can be picky, but it's well worth the trouble. So I'll plant these and we'll get back to you. So again, I have no experience. I don't even know what this plant is really. But apparently it has been grown by the French since the 1600s. And they compare it to celery. So that's interesting. As you can see, the seeds are a little bit different. I don't know how well you can see that. It's getting a little dark out, unfortunately. But the seeds are definitely smaller than the other two. And yeah, they look a little bit, yeah, they just look different. So I'm going to make sure that I don't plant too many or too few. And again, these need shallower soil than the other. This one needs shallower soil than the other ones. So I'm going to make sure that I leave plenty of room for them to grow. So if you plant them too deep, they're going to struggle to come out of the soil, and it's just going to be more and more soil. And again, they're going to die. So you got to be careful. When you do this, your hands get pretty dirty, but that's part of the fun. Anyway, so all three of these planter and the smaller planter plants have been planted now. So we're going to move on to the tomatoes, and those are a little bit different. So we'll get into that. So for these tomatoes, I'm going to use these two pots here. Technically, if I wanted to, I don't think it would make much of a difference to use it in these ones like the other ones. But I'm going to follow the directions here. It's not, well, again, I don't think it'll make that much of a difference. And planting these is a lot easier because there's more room and it's just less tedious. So I'm going to be planting these in the soil here. And if you take a look, again, I don't know if you can read these or not. It says, again, that they need to be planted a 1/4 of an inch deep, both of them. So one's going to be the white cherry tomatoes, and then the other one is going to be the black seed tomatoes. I'm really interested to see how these taste because they look, I don't know, they just look very old-fashioned, you know? You don't see tomatoes like this much these days. I guess I can talk about these a little bit. You'll notice on all of these planters there are little holes on the bottom. That is so when you water things, the moisture can drain out of the pot. If you have water that collects and kind of doesn't go anywhere, the plants can get sick and they can grow mold. So you really want there to be a lot of drainage so that the plants have the opportunity to kind of avoid having too much water collect, because it's kind of like if you were just sitting in a bathtub all day, it wouldn't exactly be healthy. So if you notice, as I'm putting soil in here, I'm kind of running the trowel through it just to kind of break up any like big pieces of rock, or not rock, but big pieces of soil, and keeping it nice and kind of loose, you know, because you want nice and loose soil so there's plenty of air that can get into it, and the plants aren't struggling too badly to get their roots through it. So those ones are done. I might plant more of these because there's going to be a lot more of these seeds than there is room in here. But I think just to start out, 2 will be fine. So just like the other ones, we're going to pop this boy open. You can see this huge container. Look at how few seeds there are in there. Seeds are really small, and it's kind of crazy how these huge plants can come from such small origins. So you can see here is a tomato seed. It's a little bit bigger than the cabbage, the kale, and whatever the other one was, the monstroli. But yeah, so I'm going to, again, get 2 or 3 of these, put these in this one, and then I'll be sure to separate it, again, so I know which one is which, even though they kind of have the same requirements. And yeah, that should pretty much be it. So again, just measuring by hand, not too much of a science to this, but roughly a 1/4 of an inch I have here, and I just put the soil on top and we're good to go. And so I'll repeat this for the white cherry, and then we can talk about maintenance, which is the most important thing about gardening. It's always important because your plants are human, or your plants are alive just like us, and they need care just like we do. So it's important to take good care of them. These seeds don't want to come out, it looks like. All right, here we go. Ooh. Okay. So these seeds, these tomato seeds, again, I don't know how well you can see this, but they are a little bit smaller than the black sea ones. And it might kind of make sense because these ones, these white cherry tomatoes, they're cherry tomatoes, so they're going to be smaller anyway once they're fully grown. But so I'm going to plant this in this one, and yeah, that should be pretty much it. Again, just measuring with my hands to get roughly 1/4 of an inch down, and they're all set. All right, so it's the next morning. It was getting a little too dark out to record, so I figured I'd hold off until now. But let's take a look at the plants so far, and we'll water them and talk about the future. All right, so these are our 5 plants so far. As you can see, it's not very pretty, but I've labeled each one so I know what is what. Fortunately, they have pretty similar watering requirements. The tomatoes might need a little bit more than the leafy greens, but not too much. So I have my watering can here. So I'm going to start watering these guys. Take a look here. Fortunately, because these things are so small, they're not going to need as much water as probably these pots will. And that's something you have to keep in mind when you're gardening. You know, obviously watering is super important, and it's super important that they get enough water to survive, but you also don't want to overwater, because if you overwater, then they drown and they also die. So just like most things, it's a big balancing act to try to find enough, to provide enough to the plants, but not too much. A good amount for the week is about 1 inch to 1.5 inches for all 5 of these plants. But per day, I would say, you know, it's just give it a drizzle over, and that should be plenty. As they get a little older, they might need a little bit more water, but the 1 inch to 1.5 inches rule per week is a pretty good one to follow. And yeah, that's going to be it for this one. If you guys have any questions or have any ideas for things you'd like me to show you, absolutely, by all means, comment. I'll read them all, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. Thanks so much, and I'll see you in the next one.
How to pronounce celeriac. Celeriac.
Celeriac.
Celeriac.
Celeriac.
Celeriac.
Celeriac.
Celeriac.
Celeriac.
If you found this video helpful, please